That's a good sign. In the spring I added some native bellica to the pond. I found 4 half-eaten fish the next day and didn't see any of the others for weeks. For a while I had to assume that the larvae of the dragonflies had finished them off. But this motion of the water lily pads means that there's at least one female depositing its eggs. With the changes to the terrace in front of the house, I now not only have a pretty flat surface, but also a step with the perfect height of a sitting bench. So really, all that I was missing was a table. I had some leftover wood from the last project, lower grade quality, but it should work fine for something rustic. A table both for work and even maybe to entertain occasional guests. There was an easy way to do the top, but I felt fancy. These are the last remaining apples that I stored over the winter from the bumper crop that was on the trees in 2022. They have some optical defects now, but they are sweet and perfect for applesauce. Unfortunately, I'm not the only one working with wood. Brown-black carpenter ants have moved into the house. This species is one of the largest in Europe, and it seems they have colonized my roof. That is a major problem. They are no pest in the kitchen. Rather, they can hollow out the beams, which eventually would collapse under the weight of the stone roof. In June, they started swarming inside the house. I was able to remove a nest I found in the insulation. I think I have things under control now, but 2024 might see some changes to the subroof to prevent future infestations. The month of June for me in Italy was not more than a long week. I had to substitute in a parish in Liechtenstein, take over the classes in school, and from there go on to hold a retreat for a community in Austria. No time this year for any walks in the vicinity like 3 years ago, when I followed the chain that is visible from the hermitage beyond the plain. In the parish, someone asked me why the Christian God was the right one, if there are so many other gods to choose from. That is a valid question. In fact, it sometimes is claimed that throughout history there have been some 3,000 gods. I don't know how one would arrive at this number, but let's grant it. How would you know which god was the real god? How would you even give all of these gods a fair shake? The truth is, you don't have to. The large number is hiding a very simple fact. Namely, that there are not 3,000, but only 3 basic religious conceptions. The first is polytheism. In fact, polytheism is responsible for almost all of the 3,000 gods that you find on a list of deities. And what is more, they typically do not compete with each other. That is both true for the gods among themselves, who can happily coexist in their cosmos, and it is true across cultures. Take the god of war. The Greeks called him Ares. The Romans called him Mars. And while the Greeks were not super into him, the Romans much admired Mars and ascribed to him a particular fertility. And if a Roman had been able to visit the Aztecs, he could have understood what the deal was with Huitzilopochtli. The stories surrounding these gods may have been different, but that wasn't seen as an obstacle. Myths never were history, but another type of truth. So you would have had difficulty to find a Greek debating a Roman on whether the sky god was Zeus or Jupiter. They were understood to be the same, just clothed in different names and heroes of different stories that humans told. For these gods in the end were nothing but a personification of forces of nature and human passions, forces beyond the control and power of mortal man. That is why you entered into a relationship with these gods, why you sacrificed and worshipped them. You were hoping to find their favor. You were hoping that the uncontrollable would become benign. That is why you prayed to Poseidon. That is why you sacrificed to Neptune, or, if you were Maori, you maybe invoked Tangaroa when you wanted to cross the sea. The existence of pagan deities is not a surprise. The ocean, fire, and fertile earth all seem to be alive in a way. It seems almost natural to personify these forces and try to entreat them to be of service to a community rather than the source of its destruction. It is a common, near universal phenomenon in all cultures and finds an expression in simple rituals and primitive art as much as in complex written epics and systems of thought. But as common as this conception is, and as colorful their diverse stories, it is also clear that these deities lack something in explanatory power. they are not the ultimate reason of things. They are proposed as mighty beings, but not as being itself. This is where monotheism differs. Monotheism provides an ultimate explanation. Its God is singular, and it could not be any other way. For the transcendent, the infinite, knows no bounds. If there were two, one would be the limit of the other, and they would both fail to be any more than just two beings. Being itself must be one. There are two kinds of monotheism, however. For one, there is pantheism, which merges everything that exists into God. It is a monism. It states all is one in an unqualified sense. There are more traditional, more esoteric, and more philosophical notions of this view, and there are a number of problems with them. Most notably, maybe for a layperson, the problem of evil. For if God is all and all is God, there is nowhere, for example, to put Stalin or Hitler in contradistinction with the One. National Socialism is just as much an embodiment and expression of the divine as is Mother Teresa. One may attempt a Hegelian solution, but few would find this satisfying. The other kind of monotheism is transcendent monotheism. It would affirm that God is in all things through his power, but nevertheless sharply distinguishes the creator from the created. Its God is the source of all that is, without being one with all, and without being one among many things, even if that thing was said to be the highest or greatest thing. This God is different because he's not part of the universe, but its source, its creator, its sustainer, its end. There are two paths to this kind of monotheism: reason and revelation. Greek philosophers have at their heights speculated or even demonstrated the existence of such a God, the One, the cause of all causes, the unmoved mover. And then there was a peculiar Middle Eastern tribe that in the most obstinate way, resisting assimilation even during centuries of suffering, occupation, exile and diaspora, that claimed that this one God had taken this tribe as his people so as to make it a blessing unto all nations. That is some bold claim. And yet it is the source of Judaism and then Christianity, which understands itself precisely as that extension of the call to all nations to become part of the one small tribe of the chosen people. Christianity has its currents and sects. There are later religions such as Islam that claim to restore what Jews and Christians supposedly corrupted from the message of the One. There are in turn offshoots of Islam that base themselves on a supposed new prophet or revelation which changed the teaching on the One. But almost all monotheistic religions that do not derive from the quest of reason and philosophy have their roots in Abraham and his call to follow the one God. Lastly, and the third type of religious conception derives primarily from human thought. It may be a system of ethics such as Confucianism, or a practical philosophical system such as Taoism or Buddhism. They're different because they do not necessarily posit the existence of a god or of gods, though in the course of history these systems have often merged with surrounding religions to form a syncretist version that may include the more ancient local deities and demons, such as in Tibetan Lamaism or variants of pantheism. At their source is a founder said to be graced with an illumination or an insight into how the world really works. This illumination may seek to address a fundamental human question such as suffering and propose a technique or system to overcome it. It may draw on wider ideas or even aesthetics. It may take the circle and the ever-present change of birth and decay observed in nature to formulate doctrines such as reincarnation. But it is fundamentally a human endeavor and system that is to guide the knowledge and action of man. These are more or less the three basic systems of religious thought. The pagan gods are very common and very understandable, but they bear their title as gods in a very different way from the transcendent monotheistic God, who is being itself, who gave his name in the burning bush as I am who am, the source of all, the good of all, the end of all, but not the pantheistic all in all. The human systems, thirdly, and more so in their purer unmixed forms, may encapsulate wisdom through observation and human experience, or particular fancies of their founders. And in practice they also include ideas that were transposed from a particular cultural context. Religions are therefore not all the same as people sometimes claim. But there are also not 3,000 different ones as others insist. There are schools of thought, main branches. And even if one of them is indeed true, as unsurprisingly I would insist as a Catholic priest, it would not follow that all the others were wrong in every respect or in the same way. Okay, but this does not answer the question with which this query started. It does not. But maybe it provides a starting point for a more fruitful exploration and discernment of different arguments.